Italian Irredentism in Nice was the political movement supporting the annexation of Nice to the Kingdom of Italy. The term was coined by Italian Irredentists who sought the unification of all Italian peoples within the Kingdom of Italy. According to some Italian nationalists and fascists, like Ermanno Amicucci, Italian and Ligurian-speaking populations of the county of Nice formed the majority of the county's population until the mid-19th century, but modern linguistics refute this theory. Occitan and Ligurian languages were spoken in the county of Nice. During the Risorgimento, in 1860, the Savoy government allowed France to annex the region of Nice from the Kingdom of Sardinia in exchange for French support of its quest to unify Italy. Consequently, the Nizzardi Italians were excluded from the Italian unification movement, and the region has since become primarily French-speaking. History. The Contea di Nizza was populated by Ligurian tribes up to the occupation by the Romans. These tribes were conquered by Augustus and were fully Romanized by the 4th century, when the barbarian invasions began. The Franks conquered the region after the fall of Rome, and the local Romance language-speaking populations became integrated within the county of Provence, with the period of independence as a maritime republic. In 1388, the Commune of Nice sought the protection of the Duchy of Savoy, and Nice continued to be controlled, directly or indirectly, by the Savoy monarchs right up until 1860. During this time, the maritime strength of Nice rapidly increased until it was able to cope with the Barbary pirates. Fortifications were largely extended by the rulers of Savoy, and the roads of the city and surrounding region improved. Emmanuel Philibert, Duke of Savoy, abolished the use of Latin and established the Italian language as the official language of Nice in 1561. Conquered in 1792 by the armies of the First French Republic, the county of Nice was part of France until 1814, but after that year it was placed under the protection of the Kingdom of Sardinia by the Congress of Vienna. By a treaty concluded in 1860 between the Sardinian king and Napoleon III, the county of Nice was again ceded to France, along with Savoy, as a territorial reward for French assistance in the Second Italian War of Independence against Austria, which saw Lombardy unified with Piedmont Sardinia. Giuseppe Garibaldi, born in Nice, strongly opposed the cession to France, arguing that the plebiscite that ratified the treaty was not universal and contained irregularities. He was elected at the French National Assembly for Nice with 70% of the votes in 1871, and quickly promoted the withdrawal of France from Nice. But the elections were invalidated by the French authorities. In 1871-72 there were popular riots in the city, promoted by the Garibaldini, in favor of unification with the Kingdom of Italy. 15 Nizzardi Italians were processed and condemned for these riots. Supported by the Nizzardi Republican Party, more than 11,000 Nizzardi Italians refused to be French and moved to Italy after 1861. The French government closed the Italian-language newspapers Diritto di Nizza and Voce di Nizza in 1861, and Il Pensiero di Nizza in 1895. In these newspapers read the most famous writers in Italian language of Nice: Giuseppe Bresci, Enrico Sapia, Giuseppe Andre. One of the most renowned Isidro-Italians was Luciano Maru, a follower of Garibaldi. On November 1870 he was temporarily exiled from Nice together with the Garibaldini Adriano Gilli, Carlo Perino and Alberto Cugnet. Later, Luciano Maru was elected in 1871 as councillor of Nizza under Mayor Augusto Reno and was member of the Commissioner Garibaldini di Nizza with Donato Rastu, its president until 1885. Benito Mussolini considered the annexation of Nice to be one of his main targets. In 1942, during the Second World War, after the landing of the Allies in North Africa, the former county of Nice was occupied and administered by Italy from November 11, 1942 until September 8, 1943. The Italian occupation was far less severe than the Vichy regime. Therefore, thousands of Jews took refuge there. For a while the city became an important center for various Jewish organizations. However, when the Italians signed the armistice with the Allies, German troops invaded the former Italian zone and initiated brutal raids. Alois Brunner, the SS official for Jewish affairs, was placed at the head of units formed to search out Jews. Within 5 months, 5,000 Jews were caught and deported. The area was returned to France following the war, and in 1947, the areas of La Brigade and Tende, which had remained Italian after 1860, were ceded to France. Thereafter, a quarter of the Nizadi Italians living in the mountainous area moved to Piedmont and Liguria in Italy. Today, after a sustained process of Francisation conducted since 1861, the former county is predominantly French-speaking. Only along the coast around Menton and in the mountains around Tende there are still some native speakers of the original Intermedio dialect of Ligurian language. Currently the area is part of the Alpes-Maritimes department of France. Language. In Nice the language of church, municipality, law, school, theatre was always the Italian language. From 460 AD to the mid-19th century, the county of Nice counted 269 writers, not including the still living. Of these 269 writers, 90 used Italian, 69 Latin, 45 Italian and Latin, 7 Italian and French, 6 Italian with Latin and French, 2 Italian with Nizardo dialect and French, 2 Italian and Provençal. Augustus conquered the Nice territory, populated by Ligures, and left a monument with the names of the Ligurian tribes. The Ligurians were fully Romanized in the following centuries, and the version of the Latin language became a Romanced language during the Middle Ages. Before the year 1000, the area of Nice was part of the Ligurian League. Under the Republic of Genoa, the population spoke a dialect different from the one of Western Liguria, whereas in the eastern part the language, which today is called Intermedio, was spoken. The medieval writer and poet Dante Alighieri wrote in his Divine Comedy that the river Var near Nice was the western limit of the Italian Liguria. Around the 12th century, Nice came under the French House of Anjou, that favored the immigration of peasants from Provence who brought with them their Occitan language. In those years, the people of the mountainous areas of the upper Var Valley started to lose the former Ligurian linguistic characteristics and began to adopt Provençal influences in the fantastic linguistics and historical inventions of the Italian fascists, such as Ermanno Amicucci. From 1388 to 1860, the county of Nice was under the Savoyard rule and remained connected to the Italian dialects and peninsula. In those centuries, the local dialect of Nice, known as Nicard, was different from the Monegasque but still had some Ligurian influences. Most scholars today classify Nicard as a dialect of Occitan and Monegasque as a dialect of Ligurian. But Sue Wright wrote that, before the Kingdom of Sardinia ceded the county of Nice to France, Nice was not French-speaking before the annexation, but underwent a shift to French in a short time, and it is surprising that the local Italian dialect, the Nicet, disappeared quickly from the private domain. Quote, She also wrote that one of the main reasons of the disappearance of the Italian language in the county was because any of the administrative class under Piedmont's Savoy ruler, the soldiers, jurists, civil servants and professionals, who used Italian in the working lives, moved to Piedmont after the annexation, and the places and roles were taken by newcomers from France. Indeed, immediately after 1861, the French government closed all the Italian-language newspapers, and more than 11,000 Italians moved to the Kingdom of Italy. The dimension of this exodus can be deducted by the fact that in the Savoy census of 1858, Nice had only 44,000 inhabitants. In 1881, the New York Times wrote that, before the French annexation, the Nizidi were quite as much Italian as the Genoese, and the dialect was, if anything, nearer the Tuscan than the harsh dialect of Genoa. Within 20 years, the Nizidi Italians were reduced to a small minority, and Nicard was assimilated by Occitan, with many French loanwords. Modern-day linguists usually hold that Nicard is an Occitan dialect. Giuseppe Garibaldi defined his Nizidi as an Italian dialect, albeit with strong similarities to Occitan and with some French influences, and for this reason promoted the union of Nice to the Kingdom of Italy. Today some scholars, like the German Werner Forner, the French Jean-Philippe d'Albera and the Italian Giulia Petracco Siccardi, agree that the Nicard has some characteristics, phonetical, lexical and morphological, that are typical of the Western Ligurian language. The French scholar Bernard Cerquiglini pinpoints in his Les Langues de France the actual existence of a Ligurian minority in Tende, Roquefort, Brune and Menton. Another reduction in the number of the Nizidi Italians happened after World War II, when defeated Italy was forced to surrender to France the small mountainous area of the county of Nice that had been retained in 1860. For the Val d'Iria, Tenda and Briga, 1/4 of the local population moved to Italy in 1947. In the century of nationalism between 1850 and 1950, the Nizidi Italians were reduced from the 70% majority of the 125,000 living in the county of Nice at the time of the French annexation, to an actual minority of nearly 2,000 today. Nowadays, Nizidi Occitans are fluent in French, but a few of them still speak the original Occitan language of Nizza Bella. Bibliography. Andre Giuseppe. Nizza, negli ultimi 4 anni. Editor Gilletta. Nizza, 1875. Amicucci, Ermanno. Nizza Italia. Ed. Mondadori. Milano, 1939. Pirelli Hervé Rocca Roger. Histoire de l'identité niçoise. C'est Nice, 1995. ISBN 2864102234. Barbris, Francesco. Nizza Italiana, raccolta di vari poesie italiane e Nizid, corredate di note. Editor Tip. Saborghi e Guarnieri. University of California, 2007. Bec Pierre, La Langue Occitane. Presses Universitaires de France. Paris, 1963. Gray, Ezio, La Terra Nostra Ritornano. Malta, Corsica, Nizza. De Agostini Editorial. Novara, 1943. Holt, Edgar. The Making of Italy, 1815–1870. Athenaeum. New York, 1971. Ralph Shaw, Henrik Uria, Le Comté de Nice, La France et l'Italie. Regards sur le rattachement de 1860. Actes du colloque organisé à l'Université de Nice. Sophia Antipolis, 23 Avril 2010. Nice, edition C. 2011. 175 p. Stewart, J. Wolf, Il Risorgimento Italiano. Einaudi. Torino, 1981. Université de Nice. Sophia Antipolis, Centre Histoire du Droit. Les Alpes Maritimes et la Frontière 1860 et nos jours, Actes du Colloque de Nice, ed. Ser. Nice 1992. Werner Fauna, L'Antimelia Linguistica, Genoa 1995.